us embracing and really coming about and understanding the importance of our hair, I feel like that kind of threatens them in a way too.
Be anywhere, but when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am.
It depends on the kind of makeup artist you are, because I don't want to change your feature when you sit in my chair. If you're my client, I want to signify or just build on your features that you already have. The cycle continues until we can all agree or even acknowledge the elephant in the room. How can we ever move on?
One of the lies that we tell ourselves is that we are making progress. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake. See, it's no in between. You're either free or you're a slave. There's no such thing as second-class citizenship. But a lot of you running around talking about you Democrats, and the Democrats got you in the biggest trick going. When black people become serious about the revolutionary struggle that they are caught up in, whether they recognize it or not, when they begin to go down and knock off people who are oppressing them, that's when the revolutionary struggle unfolds. Not until.
Where we're here to educate, regulate, and demonstrate. Educate the youth, regulate the truth, and demonstrate the proof. And today, family, I have a very special guest in the building with me. I got my sis Alexis, and we're here to talk about cosmetology. We're going to be talking about all of the things how we view ourselves as Black people, and then Black women in particular. How the people in the 60s and the movement, the Black Revolution movement, the Black Panther Party, we see a lot of the big afros on the Black women of the Black Panther Party. So we just know that there's a heavy emphasis on how we view ourselves, how we portray our images to the people in conjunction with the revolution. Because we know with the Black Panthers, they had the leather jackets. That's the fashion aspect. So they were just coming from all different angles, family, and they were presenting themselves as Black revolutionaries. And they always made an emphasis on caring about how the way they look and how the way they present themselves. So family, sit back, get ready to be educated, because my sis Alex is going to bring that information when it comes to this cosmetology. So family, my sis Alexis, break it down for the people who you are, what you represent.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis, and as you said, I have a background in cosmetology. Freelance for about, I don't know, maybe 8 years, but I would classify myself as an activist. So I don't know. I feel like my voice and the way that I view a lot of the things, particularly pertaining to the women in the movement, would be refreshing to a lot of people, because they, like you said, a lot of people don't realize that the women had a big part on the cosmetology and just the way that it ran in all.
So from your perspective, as it relates to your profession, how do you incorporate the understanding of the Black Revolutionary Movement and looking at the women of the Black Panther Party? How do you intertwine that into your profession?
Honestly, I would say it starts with like presentation and the way that women carried themselves and the way they dress. Not only just the women, but men especially, and just the way that they presented themselves to the world, and kind of debunked like a lot of beauty standards or whatever, European standards, whatever you want to call it. And it all plays a part in it, just how they carried themselves and how they regulated business, in my opinion. But yeah, cosmetology and just hair in general, it was all a part of the presentation.
Yes,
let me go back to my notes. Yeah, the whole movement, it inspired, and still to this day inspires a lot of Black women across the world, seeing us presented in like a organic way, to let people know that like you don't have to look a certain way to be an activist.
And we all know that played a pivotal role in just how we even look back, when we look at the afros and we look at just all of the different factors that played a role in conjunction with the mindset of being the revolutionary. So that definitely plays heavy as well. So just starting this conversation off, based off around just what we were talking about with the afros and in correlations to the Black Panther Party, how has natural hair shaped the women of the Black Panther Party?
Okay. Natural hair has shaped it for a lot of women as like a symbol of self-love and just showing that we are like the blueprints. Like it starts with us. We don't have to look a certain way. And natural hair, not only for the men and the women, like even in the 60s and people had perms, extensions, all of that. But just seeing that as the face of the movement, I think that it just uplifted and inspired a lot of people to just be their natural self. Like you don't have to put yourself in a box or be a certain way to support the movement or be a part of it. Like,
Yeah, so just in continue with our conversation as well. From your perspective, what is the importance of how a Black woman presents herself in her physical appearance?
how you present yourself as a Black woman can be either very detrimental or really uplifting for a lot of people. I think from my own experiences as a young woman, we think that just because we're young and free that we have a lot of time to constantly like change and just act a certain way without any consequences for real or really thinking about what could happen. But you got to grow up one day. But the way that you present yourself is important because, like I said, a lot of people are going to judge you and put you in a box regardless. But not only as a woman, but a Black woman especially, like you're always going to be stereotyped or assumed to be something you're not. So just your aesthetic, the way you carry yourself, the way you dress, and whether you think people are watching or not, like people are always watching, whether it's in a negative or positive way. And it may not even affect you directly, the consequences to like the way you present yourself, but somebody's always judging and somebody's always watching.
Yes, and a lot of times we even see that to why like a lot of people hate on Black women in particular because of
Yes,
the way
yes,
they present
literally.
themselves.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then like because we're so young, they be like, I'm young, I can do this, but that's not always the point. Like that's it's the principle behind it. You're young now, but one day you're gonna be older. You're gonna be looking back at this and wondering why someone treated you a certain way or why someone acted like that with you. But that's the way that you presented yourself. And maybe you possibly didn't present yourself, but we are human, so people are gonna assume what they wanna, regardless.
Yep. And we all know what happens when people assume, especially when you're assuming with a negative, connotation towards it as well. Because when white people, white women in particular, look at other Black women, they have this certain connotation, especially
Exactly.
with hair, especially with everything that goes against how they're doing, like even in the schools when they're telling kids and making kids whether they have cornrows, whether they have, locks. And we all know in particular who they're talking about. When they're talking about hair, they're
Exactly.
not talking about white women's frizzy hair. They're talking
Yeah.
about, Black people's hair. And they know that there's something so sacred and strong about how we wear our hair. And especially when you're a woman coming from a spiritual perspective and knowing that there are a lot of things that are connected spiritually with your hair. Those are like, human antennas to be able to
Definitely.
connect with the spiritual levels.
Definitely. Like this is a part of my culture. This is about who I am and what I represent, us as a whole. So for you to assume that I can't educate myself or even pay attention in class because of a certain hairstyle or the way that I carry myself, the way my face look like, all of it is you. I mean, it's all of it comes back to them thinking that I should be presented a certain way, in which they have no say so on how I should present myself to the world, like as a Black woman.
Yep. And everything that, the Panthers represented, they were going against that, commonality that they were putting amongst Black people. No, we were able to stand out. We was revolutionary, even just the way,
Exactly.
yeah, the leather jackets, just the way, they still wore suits, they still presented themselves. It wasn't like a whole bunch of, Black folks just wearing a bunch of street attire. They were actually, suited and
Exactly. They were like disciplined and uniform, like presented themselves in a way, in a manner of like you're either gonna respect it or just, take it for what it is.
Yep, militancy, and now we know that there's a connotation with locks, with certain way people wear their hair, and we're also seeing the connection that correlates down to the Native American ancestry that's here in America, and all of the other different things. So like you being from the South and being down there, like Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tuscaloosa was a black chief. So there's a lot of different history that we know that correlate to just the way we present ourselves, and especially the way we wear our hair. That really is
Exactly.
definitely a cornerstone.
Yes, certain things, the way we do, like the braids and the background on the braids, and the way that a lot of our ancestors used their hair to get through all of the, detrimental things that they went to. Like, all of it plays a part into our culture and who we are today.
Going back to your profession in cosmetology, how has cosmetology influenced the visual representation of the Black Power movement?
Cosmetology has played a part in the visual movement because, well, are we speaking on like current terms or during the actual
Yeah, just in correlation, because we know we look at the '60s, and just even as early back as just looking at the George Floyd protests, and we look at all of the things that's happened just in the recent years. A lot of times that the visualization of the Black person is always in the
oh, yeah,
forefront.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah,
especially if they have like a fro, they usually put those people in the
yeah. they
front.
they want they think that you're a certain way, like, because you have on baggy jeans or you're wearing Jordan tennis shoes or something. The way I think that cosmetology and the way that you present yourself, all of it ties into like what the Panthers were promoting and what they stood for. A crucial part of hygiene, well, the discipline and the way that they presented themselves, not only cosmetically but just as a militia or whatever, it your hygiene was a real big standard for them, and it dates back to spiritual practices too. Cosmetics were used by both men and women, and it was deeply tied into spirituality as a, not only for community people, but believe that physical appearance reflected your purity. So all of that plays into like the way you present yourself today, and that's cosmetics. Because like you said, people assume you're something because of the way you look. Like, because I have locks, they think I'm a smoker, or because you have long hair, they think you're which that's still stereotyping. Like, all of it goes back to into the way that you present yourself.
Yes, definitely. And like we've talked about just in the previous questions, is that's always been a cornerstone behind all of the revolutions. Like that's what that's what draws people. The appearance of a people is what draws the
Exactly.
people in. And
Definitely.
yeah, and a lot of times we know that to captivate audiences, even from a revolutionary perspective, even just we look at the Black Panthers, we look at Elaine Brown, we look at Angela Davis, we look at all of these people. They were very meticulous on how they presented themselves, both physically, and
Yes.
spiritually.
That I literally just watched something and it played back into me. I was watching an interview with Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin, and she was saying how the way that she was like, she wouldn't change anything or what she said in the interview, but the way that she presented herself now, I mean, the way that she presented herself then compared to now, she wouldn't have been smoking and just carrying on the way that she was. And yeah, that's because, well, I'm sure that came with wisdom, but like she said, a lot of that goes into the way that people see you. Like, you can't show up a certain way and want to stand on business. Like, well, you can, but in this world, it's not, majority of the time, it's not going to work out the way that you assume it to be, especially for a Black or brown male and woman.
Yes, and I know even just adding to what you were talking about Nikki Giovanni, just a lot of times, you have the profession of doing cosmetology where you're actually doing and putting makeup and doing those things. But a lot of times cosmetology is not just only that. It can also be looked at from the perspective as the aesthetics. Like you were talking about with Nikki Giovanni, she wouldn't have been smoking. So a lot of the things that we talk about with cosmetology doesn't, there is the, obvious place for the actual doing the makeup, doing things
Mhm.
of that nature, but just the way people present themselves fall very much in line and just cosmetically how we want people to view us. So it just all comes together. It's like everything is a tree, and then there's branches all.
Yes, it's all connected. Like, cause I know, well, a few of my peers and my friends that I did tell about this interview, they were all lost, and they was like, "How does that play into the movement or what we're standing for, what we're conversing on today?" But I just told them like all of literally the same thing, reiterating all of it plays into it. All of it's connected. The way you present yourself, the way you see others, uh, black men and women, the way even black people themselves, they will stereotype or they assume you're a certain person by the way you look. So it's a ignorant mindset, in my opinion.
Yep. And we see a lot of people going back to their roots. A lot of people are proud of wearing their natural hair. You know,
Yes,
the,
yes,
that movement is being pushed. So, cosmetically, we're evolving just not only just the physical makeup of putting it on somebody, but we're also dealing with just how we view ourselves. When we look at
yes.
the mirror.
Healing in ways that we didn't even know that we needed. Just like going back to how in middle school or a lot of kids growing up, even today, they will literally suspend or expel you by the way that you wear your hair. Like a kid in my hometown, he got expelled. He couldn't graduate because he had his locks in two strands. Like, what does that have to do with his education? Like, if his dreads, his matty or nappy hair, whatever you want to call it, distracts another child from getting their education, then they don't need to be in that room.
Yep. And it kind of just boils down to the fear of the black man, fear of the black woman.
Exactly, because what is threatening about my hair? Coarse, thick, nappy, straight or not? What is threatening about my hair?
Because they're also looking at the power that it has, and also the fact that when we look back in our history and we look at all of the history here, history abroad in Africa, there is a deep connection with our important, the cosmetology. Just like even I was in Kemet this past summer, and they had a whole section on ancient Kemetic cosmetology. Just elite stuff, some things that even they don't even have still to this day, but just somehow they were able to tap into that back in the day. So when they know that we can, tap in with our ancestors, they know the types
Yes,
of things we do.
yes,
Yeah, they fear, because if you look on TV, they don't really fear a black man who's bald with no beard. But if a black man go on TV and he got a thick beard, he got
yeah,
long locks, that's a threat to them. But
yeah.
when
They view
yes,
him as a threat because they know what comes along with it, and
yeah.
just us embracing and really coming about and understanding the importance of our hair. I feel like that kind of threatens them in a way too, because like you said, we're realizing our power, not even realizing it because we've always known that, but just a lot of the youth and people who seen their natural hair as like a way that made them feel not beautiful or whatever you want to call it. So just us uniting and just realizing that like we are really the shit, it makes them uncomfortable, I'm gonna say.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. And just like if you look at all of the, like I was just reiterating, just looking at all of the different deities on the walls in ancient Kemet, they all have some sort of braids, some sort of locks. And even when
yeah,
we ask them, hey, what are these? Right? And they try to like brush it off, they try to play it off as if they
yeah.
don't know what it is. They even had a thing in the museum over there. They don't have it anymore, but before they did, it was actually King Tut's wig, which was actually locks. So
Oh
they
yeah, yeah.
they know that there's a connection to ruling. There's a
Exactly.
connection to power with locks, braids, just a connection with just your hair chakras, in that regards. So all of the things that we see, there's a reason why they want to attack black people's hair. Because if a white man got locks, they don't. That's not really a threat to them. That's that image of like a hippie. Somebody
Definitely.
who make love, not. Who's is very, not trying to have any war. Not trying to kick up any
Mm-hmm.
revolutionary the way Black people do. So there's definitely a heavy connection with their understanding. Anything they attack on about us, there has to be a heavy significance to our us being in a dominant rulership position. Because if you take that from us, you just want us to be subservient. But when we have it, we ruling, so they don't want that. So
Exactly. That's just like with our noses and our lips, even our hair. A lot of them, like whether they want to admit it or not, they wear extensions. They want to wear braids. They get their lips filled up with plastic and whatever it is, just to the be a replica, because you can never be us. But yeah, like all of it is all of the way they view us is a part of it.
yes, definitely. So just in continuation with what I was just touching on with the ancestral cosmetology as it relates to our ancestors in Kemet, what they did with just everything, how they looked themselves, and even just here in America, when we look at just women like Madam C.J. Walker, and we look at all of the other Black women that have played a pivotal role in just adding to the proper presentation of how we as a people want to present ourselves to the world. Because everything that's goes against us, we know that at least if we can present ourselves a certain way, that might help us gain a little more confidence. Because a lot of times our confidence and the way we go out and the way we do things in life kind of is a remnant of how we look. If we look good, we probably gonna feel good. If we don't really look
Definitely.
good, we probably not gonna feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So it can always work. What is the significance of cosmetology in both the ancient Kemetic culture and our culture here in America?
I would say the significance and what I think their main goal and dynamic was like to distill like discipline and some type of sense of worth, and knowing that, like you said, the way that you present yourself, it really plays a part into your day to day events or statuses. Like I said, spirituality to the Kemetic people, they believe that physical, well, a part of their child, they believe that physical appearance reflected your purity. So all of that plays into your hygiene and the way that you carry yourself. Like the way that they clean themselves, the way that they bathe, like their makeup. Like I said, men and women both, they wore certain things, certain pieces, certain makeup signified their status and their role in the community, and yeah, where they stood in life, basically. So
Just looking at nowadays, just and you're the field that that you're in. How would you say that that's correlated to this generation?
I would say it's all inclusive, because not even just, well, okay, for a makeup artist and a black makeup artist, especially a dark skinned makeup artist, people assume you to be a certain way. They expect you to have a certain aesthetic in a makeup, where, well, in my experience anyway. So all of it goes together, because like we still have to worry about how we present ourselves and what we do. Like you don't want to do too much or too less in a way to they think that like you're trying to change your identity, or just like change the way that you would view me outside of makeup in, if that makes sense. Like because that plays, for me in my experience anyway, I think that plays a big part in it. But all of it correlates, because what they stood for, their dynamic then, is what I hope their goal, and what we continue to push into future generations today, not only with cosmetics, but just the movement in general, I would
Yes.
say.
Yes, definitely. Because I know that, That's everything that's going on now, just like, just in continuation with just everything we were talking about. That just
Mhm.
seems like, people care about how they look, but they're balancing it out. It's not just a whole bunch of makeup, a
Exactly.
whole bunch of weed. They might put a little makeup on, but then they might be natural with their hair, or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Like
So
you're still playing your part. You're doing what you love. You're being into cosmetics, but at the end of the day, I think that for me, you still have to remember that you are a black woman. The way that you wear makeup and any type of cosmetics, like it should play a way into the way that you want to be presented and the way that you want to be respected. Like you shouldn't, yeah, yes,
and it just even goes to add to just the fact that makeup can also be used for other purposes than just how it might be presented to be used. Because when we look at people like Michael Jackson and how he had vitiligo,
exactly.
he needed to use makeup, and there's other people that have vitiligo that will use makeup to cover up the certain spots on their skin so it could balance out to their tone of skin.
Definitely, definitely. And in the eyes of a wrong person, they will view that as he's trying to be something he's not, or he's trying to fit in or nothing. But in reality, it's not. It's strictly for whatever sole purpose he think that he needed it for. Like, but yes, humans will be human.
Yeah, because it even goes to just the facts of like the differences, like how we look at marijuana. There are medical marijuana patients, and there are people that use it for recreational just to do it.
Exactly.
So there's people that get makeup for recreational to go out, they want to look
Mhm.
good, things like that. And then there are people that need makeup that literally have to wake.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's a big one. And that's a lot of people assume that makeup artists, especially in my position, they assume that, oh, you need makeup or that's just your lifestyle, you have to go out with it every day. But in my sense, and a lot of other makeup artists I know, like they do makeup because it makes them feel good. Like you said, you look good, you feel good. And that's why I said it depends on the kind of makeup artist you are, because I don't want to change your feature when you sit in my chair. If you're my client, I want to like signify or just build on your features that you already have. Like you don't need makeup regardless. So
How can a woman revolutionize her thoughts through her hair and skincare?
oh, that's deep. I really was waiting for this. A woman can revolutionize herself through her hair and her skincare. The hair, I would start by just okay, I'm gonna say with my background with locks, like before I did eventually grow locks, like I always admired a lot of people with natural hair that I would see, and I would always say like one day I'm gonna lock my hair, I want to do this, blah blah blah. But just personally in my own experience going through the process, all of this playing going back to your question, of course, but all of the stages, just watching my hair change and grow in different stages, it kind of like builds your love not only for yourself and your culture, the way your hair grows, but just mentally. It's like knowing that whether I have locks down my back or not, like this is me, this is who I am, this is how my hair grows. So it's a beautiful thing, like the whole process and your skincare and just your hygiene, all of that plays into it because like you wanna not only feel good but look good. And if you continue to care and nurture for your body, your hair and your skincare, eventually is going to show in the way that you carry yourself, the way that you present yourself. Just like if you use drugs or drink alcohol every day for 30 years, like it's going to eventually show up. So just taking care of your mind, your body and soul and your hair, it it shows not only that you have self-love, but you just respect yourself in the way that you want to grow, I would say.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I mean, just in addition to what you were talking about locking your hair, about you were telling yourself you want to do it, you want to do it. Do you see a difference in just how you feel, your spiritual connection
Yes.
before you locked your hair compared to now?
Yeah. Honestly, before I locked I would always consider myself a spiritual person. But literally, no, like just going through the motion and just realizing my love for self and just the way that I look and the way that I wake up every day without anything. It really just, it's a continuing effect to building up the person that I am now. Like the way that people approach me, the way that they view me, the way that they assume I'm gonna be because I have locks, all of it, whether negative or good, it kind of plays into it plays into my hair and me being a black woman. So yes, since being on my lock journey, the way that people speak to me, men and women, like it plays a big part. Like a lot of people assume I'm something I'm not, good or bad, but yes, it has changed the way I view myself and others.
Yeah, perfect. Because I've always known that there has to be some type of like connection that a person would have before. And even when people go and they get locks, and I've seen people have long locks and they chop it off. Like, look at Busta
Yeah,
Rhymes. Look at, and just even just the average person. We see a lot of people do that, and they're not the same person. Even look at Busta Rhymes. When Busta Rhymes was rapping with the locks, and
yes.
then when he cut it off, you know, he wasn't the same person. He had that
Yeah.
image.
It's kind of like he shifted into a different demographic or a different type of artist.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he wasn't just this, he wasn't the same person that he was before.
Yeah, and even look at the weekend. The weekend before he cut his locks, even though his locks were, a little bit different, they weren't the quintessential. Obviously he's from Canada.
Yeah,
So he did a little bit of a cultural difference in that, compared to being a black person here in America and being a black person in the South at that. So
definitely, definitely. And it's just, it's so, I just thought about that because when of course I'm born and raised in the South, just the way that people view and assume me here, when I first went to DC, like normally when people in the South see me, because it's like locks have kind of become like a trend now, in whatever way you want to view it, good or bad. I think it's good, but that's another subject, into another subject. But anyways, a lot of people in the South with locks, and when they see me with locks, I would say they're more accepting of it, or not even accepting. It's more common. But when I finally went to DC and people see me with locks, it was just like a lot of different experiences that I would have thought I would have experienced in the North compared to the South. Like a lot of people surprisingly want to touch my hair, which in the South you kind of know, like don't ask a black woman to touch her hair, but people really had the nerve to like ask me, can they touch my hair, or even ask me, is my hair real? Like the audacity.
yep. Yeah, it's just the ridiculousness behind it. Because on one, and especially when white people do that in particular, it's like you seem like you're trying to come off as like, flattering. You're
Yeah,
trying to give a person some props, like, oh,
but
the
really
hair
being
is.
passive, like
Yeah, yeah. Being in Egypt, I saw the same thing. There were women with locks who were part of the tour trip, and there were like Asian women just admiring, like, hey, can I take a picture of you? Like
yes, like I'm not a trope, or I'm not whatever you assume I'm to be. Like I'm not um I'm not gonna let you put me into that box with your microaggressions. Like whether you want to admit it or realize it or not, like that's what it is.
Yeah, because no matter where we go, they say everything about us, but they
Hmm.
do everything in their power to try to beat us, look
Yeah,
like us.
to
You know,
try to imitate, because you can never be. Imitation is their main thing. Like at first you want to shun what we do and degrade it or say it's bad, but you turn around 30 years later, not even 30, 10, 20 years later, want to profit off of it and make money off of it, just like with our earrings, our hair, our jewelry. Like all of our aesthetics is now becoming a trend more and more.
yep, yep, yep. And we see everybody just absorbs it like a sponge, and they don't ever give credit. Now, it'd be one thing if people
That
gave credit and say, yo, shout out to the Black folks, their legacy, their ancestors. You know, if they were to do that, then we could put it in perspective. Like, okay, you're
Yeah,
paying
like
homage, but
different story. And then when we call them out on it, it's, oh, we always want to bring up the same thing, or we're living in the past. But history is repeating itself. History is always repeating itself. So I'm not living in the past. You're living in the past by claiming something that's not yours as your own. So yeah.
yep, and we can never move on if if everybody is just not understanding of what belongs to who and who deserves what. Once we get to that place, then we'll probably be able to move forward. But when everybody else wants to do this and do that and have their hand in this and they have their hand over there, then it just becomes like everybody, what we're seeing right now is just a big fight for all. Everybody has to fight over just a little crumb that they want to throw from the higher up.
And it makes it harder for the next person that's actually trying or want to do the right thing, or just so on. Like the cycle continues until we can all agree or even acknowledge the elephant in the room. How could we ever move on when the cycle is constantly repeating itself and it's just being passed on from generation to generation?
My sister Alexis, I definitely appreciate your time. This was a wonderful conversation as it relates to cosmetology. And just even when we were adding on to the fact that it's not just about makeup, it's also about how we present ourselves, how we look at ourselves. And we know when it comes to revolutionary, the Black Panthers definitely played a heavy role. And even just to what you were saying also, what I tell people is that whatever they do, revolutionize it. You know, there could be other people out there that are Black that might do makeup and hair or whatever the case may be, but they just go get their paper and they done. They just, you know, devote all their time on nothing that really can build themselves or something that can be sustainable for the future. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I just want everybody to do, no matter what you do, revolutionize it. You don't have to be Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. You don't have to be the next, you know, scholar who's a speaker out in the public. But if we all do our role and be able to revolutionize whatever career profession that we do, we will definitely be able to come together. And there's definitely strength in numbers, especially when we're doing something revolutionary. And revolutionary doesn't always mean guns and violence. The revolution starts in the mind, and we have to revolutionize our mind, and then everything else will follow. So I definitely appreciate your time. But before we go, is there any last words, any last gems like you would like to drop on the people? And if people want to book you for a session, how can they go about doing that?
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of what you said about whatever niche you're in and whatever you want to do or whatever talents you have, like use it for the greater good. Like make your money, but at the same time give back and always try to do the right thing. And it doesn't have to be on a global or national type setting. Like you can start locally with your own community, just giving back or trying to show that you do care for the community and you want to see us excel. But yes, regarding my my other business ventures, anybody in the Mississippi or Alabama area, from the coast to Pensacola, I do travel and provide services not only for makeup, but well, not only for cosmetic makeups, all kind of things. So yes, my Instagram is the real.book, BOOK, and my Facebook is Alexis Wiggerfall. I only have one page. It's one other page, but yes, it's a more recent page with my picture on there. And again, it's really a pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate all that you do, and your father, of course.
Thank you, my sister. I appreciate you as well. And continue keeping on with everything that you're doing. And what you're doing is revolutionary, even if, you know, some people might look at it and say, well, it's just, you know, makeup, or it's just, but everybody cares about how they present themselves.
Definitely.
You know, so it's always a cornerstone into what we do. It's something that we will always need. So when people do find their career profession, they should find something that they know that is always going to be in need of service. You know, like food is always going to be in need. So it behooves people, if you like cooking, that's a good profession to get into, because that's always going to be needed in our society. So I definitely think that, you know, a lot of people might look at, you know, cosmetology from a certain perspective, but everybody cares about how they look. You know, the way we dress, everything falls into that category. Whether we immediately think about it or not, it is something that definitely, goes through our minds on a consistent basis. So definitely keep on with everything that you're doing. It's needed. And family, this has been another wonderful episode of Power to the Panthers podcast. And like we usually do at this time, family, Huey, take us away.
We're asking the Black community in general not to respond to the vicious attacks that the police are making upon our people. We feel that Chief Gaines and Mayor Redding would like to provoke the community in responding violently so that they will have an excuse to come into our community and brutalize and murder our people.
Thanks for watching. This episode of Power to the Panthers podcast has been brought to you by Panther Prince Productions.